will be told what no one tells, so real. Because, in Peru, Arturo Humala's first interview after his release was marked by controversial issues such as the death penalty, the same one towards which he was openly in favor. At one point in the interview, the journalist Fernando del Rinzon asked him if he had undergone a psychological evaluation, a requirement for the release of prisoners serving sentences for crimes of kidnapping with subsequent death. Faced with this question, the ethno-Casarist leader replied that the crime he had committed was simple kidnapping, so a psychological test was not appropriate. After that response, the journalist could not hide his annoyance. I think that far from any information, common sense tells me that you need a psychological evaluation, Mr. Humala. Video, CNN. On the other hand, this is controversial in Peru, given that Arturo has many followers, because, according to what is said, Arturo has forceful proposals for the development of the country, as it is already known worldwide. It is a country that is not a world power. That is why the citizens of Peru are looking for the development of the country. By the way, Arturo Humala and his lawyer maintain that his incarceration for many years, like 19 years, but that he was released, due to a reduced sentence, which would be a little more than 17 years in prison, is an unjust, arbitrary incarceration, that is to say that Arturo was innocently imprisoned. Finally, then, Arturo Humala Tasso is free and remains unknown, because it is not known what will happen 2 months from now, a year or 2026, in. What will be the presidential elections in Peru? Will he run as a presidential candidate? Arturo? Turning to other international news, it is said that Venezuela started 2022 with persistent challenges, but also with some tangible opportunities. The unrealistic aspirations for an immediate exit from Chavismo were left behind, leaving room for the eventual construction of a democratic coexistence. But for any positive change to occur, the Maduro government and the democratic opposition will need to return to the negotiating table, where they have established a platform for coordination and progress on issues such as the restoration of democratic institutions, humanitarian aid, and, ultimately, an electoral solution. The international community, especially the United States, will be a key player and must not fall into inertia. In the Venezuela of 2022, small efforts can make a real difference in the lives of citizens. As expected, the November 2021 regional elections were dominated by the ruling party. In a mostly bleak picture, only 4 of the 23 governorships were won by the opposition, although there were some bright spots. The contest in Barinas, birthplace of Hugo Chavez and traditional bastion of Chavismo, was finally decided after a new vote orchestrated by the Maduro regime on January 9th after a defeat in November. Surprising many observers, the regime lost for the second time, revealing the lack of widespread support for the ruling party, especially outside of Caracas. The electoral results at the local level reinforced this analysis, where a third of the 335 mayors went to candidates other than the ruling party, compared to only 29 in the regional elections of 2017. This gives the Democratic opposition the opportunity to chart a course and govern locally. International actors can also do much to achieve the reinstitutionalization of the country, defined by some civil society actors as the process of preserving and strengthening what remains of democratic institutions, while keeping the door open for a full restoration of democratic institutions. Democracy in the future. Accepting that the restoration of democracy in Venezuela will not come in a single weekend of dramatic power plays or a massive march on the Miraflores Palace, but gradually, many Venezuelans will focus on these more modest changes. A persistent problem on the unity question is the state of the interim government of Juan Guaidó, which was established 3 years ago as an alternative pole to the government after the 2015 opposition-led National Assembly declared the presidency of Nicolas Maduro illegitimate. For the third year, members of the 2015 National Assembly met at the end of December to extend the mandate of the interim government. However, they have changed the decision-making structure from a presidency to a delegated commission of 18 members of the National Assembly, which was sworn in on January 7th. The development of a semi-permanent negotiating platform could create some openings for cooperation in the coming year, particularly on humanitarian issues that require the release of Venezuelan assets abroad, assets that the opposition controls but that need to be coordinated with the Maduro government, to be used for humanitarian purposes. Another possibility, largely aspirational at the moment, should at least be considered. Many proposals to restore democratic institutions in Venezuela call for a concerted form of government. Such ideas are unrealistic, given both sides' insistence on strictly adhering to the Venezuelan constitution, which does not allow such a concession. But there could be room to channel many national decisions to an established negotiating body for resolution and collaboration. Thus, the Mexico City negotiations have set the stage for small but persistent advances on humanitarian and institutional issues. Ultimately, they could provide the platform where more important decisions about an electoral outcome could be made. It is imperative that the negotiations continue. A key role for the United States, the key actor, to support the continuation and expansion of the negotiating table is the United States. Abandoning its previous position of opposition to the negotiations, the United States now acquiesces and even offers conditional support for them. But to make real progress, the United States would have to be more involved, putting the lifting of sanctions on the table as leverage to create conditions for substantial progress. Some Venezuelans have suggested a roadmap that would allow the United States and the Maduro government to clearly align concessions with benefits. By the United States, this would largely revolve around offering sanctions relief in support of democratic progress within Venezuela, in close coordination with the democratic opposition. Given the ease of imposition of most sanctions, these concessions could be safely employed without fear of emboldening or strengthening the Maduro government. This year will not have the drama of 2021, which presented high expectations for the Biden administration following key elections in Venezuela. But opportunities to improve the country's dire humanitarian situation, rebuild or preserve key institutions, improve unity among democratic forces, and allow local officials and others to govern with at least some effectiveness should not be missed. Welcome. Here you will be